I'm Fatheree.
This is Dave.
And this is Antonea.
And this is Tex-Trek.
Engage.
Welcome back aboard the Starship Texas for the 80th installment of the Tex-Trek podcast, the home of Star Trek fandom from deep in the heart of Texas, where we talk all about Star Trek old and new. And tonight, we are here to talk about Star Trek Las Vegas. And we're doing things very differently. We are actually just recording our audio separately from any video, because I am still in Las Vegas. And we wanted to do this live, but Google decided to really screw over those plans and discontinue the Google Hangout option for live streams, and I didn't have enough time to come up with an alternative. So here we are. Hopefully this will be out either late Sunday night or early Monday morning, but the 80th installment of Tex-Trek.
Father, I feel like it's like you're marooned in space, like Kirk on the Genesis planet. Buried alive. Buried alive.
Yeah, because no one can see our faces right now. I think they're actually going to be looking at either a star field if they're watching the video, or they're going to be looking at just a repeated cycle of pictures or footage or both from the convention, which is probably what we're going to edit in here. So
that sounds cool. People don't need to see our dumb faces all the time. But it's too bad because your girlfriend Antonea is kindly joining us this time, and we should at least make her be in front of camera and class it up a bit.
Well, yeah, she is unfortunately a bit camera shy, but she is joining us through the power of microphones, and you might also hear Dave's cat Moon Pie in the background because
he is geez, I couldn't say what his breed was. He's a Maine Coon, and they're talkative. Okay.
I thought you were going to say he's a Cation.
Well, probably.
But yeah, the show must go on,
right?
And with the 80th installment of Tex-Trek, this is now our first episode where we've passed the original series, which only had 79.
Oh, crazy!
So
the original series of our podcasts, the TOS podcasts.
Yes. Well, it took them 3 seasons to hit 79, and we've been doing this for about 3 years, so we're on kind of the same pace.
Father, are you trying to say you're Kirk?
I think out of the people who've appeared on our podcast, I am the most Kirkish. So I'll leave it. I have a girlfriend named Antonea, so
oh, man.
What do you think about that?
I never thought we would make that kind of a callback to Star Trek Generations. Fair enough. And I feel like I'm kind of the Spock because I had to duel in the Ponfar the other day.
No, I think you're too emotional to be Spock. You're kind of a big baby. But I
said it's the Ponfar, okay?
Well, the blood fever calls, but we will be talking about Star Trek Las Vegas, the huge convention which just happened. We were here.
I'm gonna interview you about it because I have never been to such a thing, and you will tell me all the things a person needs to know.
Yeah, and we witnessed all 5 days of it. Mm-hmm. Before we get into that, I did want to mention something serious. At the time of recording, we had just recently experienced a tragic mass shooting in the city of El Paso, Texas, the birthplace of Star Trek's creator, Gene Roddenberry, of all places. And this was something that was actually mentioned at the convention today during one of the Star Trek Discovery panels that was brought up by the Dr. Colbert actor Wilson Cruz, who is a Latino man himself, and he spoke about, not only what it felt like to be a Latino in America right now who is a target that someone will apparently go out of their way to exterminate, but he also asked for a moment of silence in the Nimoy Theater in remembrance of the people lost and in honor of those who lost loved ones there. And
that's a class act. I gotta appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. And he's a classy guy. And I hate to be a downer and bring this up, but if Star Trek has been anything, I think it's been kind of a collection of stories that serve as teaching opportunities.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
This is something that really needs to be talked about, and something that we really need to be thinking of, and that is the huge epidemic we have in our society right now of white supremacy. That feels like we have like a level of bigotry run amok, unlike anything else I've seen in my lifetime.
Yeah, absolutely. The vibe is different. Even I'm going to say my most hated presidents of the past have generally tried to take on the role of a healer and a conciliatory role to sort of bring the nation together during these times. And it feels like we are in anything but a conciliatory mode or healing mode right now.
Yeah, and I don't want to like draw this out because we already talked about it longer than I intended to, but it's something that everyone needs to be aware of and think about, that this is not how things should be going in 2000, well, really at any year. Like we should not have this level of violent bigotry run amok without people speaking out about it and wanting to do something about it.
Well, and I got that feeling a lot in this convention. I feel like a lot of the guest stars were saying their piece, sometimes coded because of the non-political nature
right.
that they're trying to do in the convention, which was kind of frustrating for me.
That's interesting. I didn't know that was a tone that they would strike there, but I do know that that's probably, as an actor, you want to have that to be a friendly event. You want it to have a broad appeal. So I can see why they might sort of speak in a little bit coded criticisms.
Yeah, but there's a huge political slant among Star Trek fans. I never once felt like someone disagreed with
That's
thinking.
good.
You know what I mean? Like, I didn't feel like there was like a white supremacist in the audience.
The sad fact is probably. I feel like there probably was. It's a weird thing to even think about, but.
Yeah.
But like I've seen enough message boards and posts.
That's a whole other sect of people, like the fans who give enough of a shit that they're willing to like spend the money or put in the effort to do stuff like this are not the trolls that comment on message boards.
I guess that's true.
Those two worlds are leagues apart.
I just know, I just know that there's, among any stripe of fans, I've always seen that there's some essentially some lowlifes, some assholes, some judgmental scumbag bigots.
We have the best fan base,
but I do think that Trek is like, I bet it's like very, very few, very minimal presence there, and maybe no presence at all. So I'm proud of those actors for saying that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there's gonna be bad apples in every barrel, but if you talk to anyone who's part of the Star Trek fandom, I think, who's in any marginalized group, at least out of the ones I've talked to, because I asked this question and they agree with me that out of all like the geeky fandoms out there, this is the one that's by far like the most inclusive and the one that's most welcoming and the one that's at the risk of sounding pretentious, I would say like the most like mature and aware of these types of issues and problems, and I take pride in being part of that.
Yeah, I think that's something that Gene Roddenberry would hopefully admire and be happy with it as a legacy. And honestly, it's a legacy we should always be trying to live up to, is that dream he had.
For sure. But now that we've gotten that out of the way, I would like to talk about some of the fun and awesome stuff that went on the last few days, because it was very much fun and awesome.
I was watching and living vicariously through your posts through Tex-Trek and stuff like that, and it did look super cool.
Yeah, if you don't follow me on Twitter, or if you're not part of the Star Trek Facebook page, I'm sorry, the Tex-Trek Facebook page, you need to be, because I was trying to document as much as I could. That's not true. I could have taken like more pictures of cosplayers, but there's only so much time in a day, and I had a bunch of panels to attend.
Well, so when you posted like when Sonequa Martin Green took the stage, and I was like, oh my god, it's Burnham. That's so cool. And like I didn't know who all was going to be there. So should I jump in and start hitting you up with some questions, and you can kind of tell me about the con through this?
Yes. So Dave is going to debrief me and Antonea and ask us about our away mission to Las Vegas.
Right, because I was not there. I'm a man on the street, or a Starfleet admiral holding your feet to the fire to tell me what happened to you on the Pleasure Planet.
Yeah, you got an office job back in San Francisco. You're not in the trenches like we are. But yeah, fire away.
All right, so I just have a real quick, simple first question, and I think I know the answer to this, but did you have fun? And I want to hear from both of y'all.
Yeah, it was fun. There's definitely a lot of interesting conversations, not just at panels, which was great, but also just with other fans that were around hanging around the hotel and the resort. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And you're kind of and Tony, I guess I don't know if we said this in the introduction, but you didn't come into you have not been a Trekkie before meeting Fatheree, I guess, right?
Yeah,
right.
Antonea, why don't you just introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, sorry,
about,
I was careless.
Talk about like your relationship with Star Trek and how you ended up being someone attending Star Trek Las Vegas.
Sure. So I don't want to go in too much detail, but I didn't grow up around geek culture very much because I grew up in Hawaii, and geek culture is just different there than what I've experienced knowing Fatherie.
It's a bunch of anime nerds, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a lot of manga in Hawaii is what I got exposed to.
Okay, sure.
Which was not for me, but so I
really
you
weren't necessarily in those sort of geeky circles as much.
Right, and I don't think I knew a single Star Trek fan that I'm aware of growing up until I met a few people, including Steven or Fatherie. But when we moved in together, he ended up convincing me to watch Star Trek, and we didn't really set out to do this, but in a year we watched every movie, every episode that was available at that time. It's before Discovery came on.
So I believe it was 703 live action episodes at the time and 13 movies.
God, yeah, that's like a few months of the year just all together.
Yeah, I feel like I actually
survived.
got a diploma. I did survive, and I still deserve a diploma. I think I need a master's degree now.
Absolutely.
Very well versed.
You have seen more Star Trek in raw hours than I have, so I'm impressed.
And I didn't try to force it on her. It just so happened
Sometimes you did.
I was watching
Enterprise.
Well, by that point we were in for a penny, in for a pound.
Yeah.
Right.
But
yeah.
I had only shown her we started with the original series, and that happened because I just so happened to be watching Where No Man Had Gone Before, what I consider to be like the true first episode of the original of Star Trek at all. And from there, she just wanted to keep going with the original series. She thought it was an interesting show because she is someone who does kind of appreciate classic sci-fi stuff like Soylent Green and some other classics out there. War of the Worlds, yeah. So
right, something that's going to pose a bit of like a social issue or like really project a science fiction scenario that might make you think of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we just pretty much like watched all of it in like close to the air date order. So we did TNG, and then we started DS9 when we got into season 6 of TNG, and then we had Voyager and DS9, and then finished off on Enterprise. And in time for Star Trek Discovery, she had seen everything.
That is pretty cool. So you were seeing sights and things at this convention that at this point have become now at least familiar to you in a lot of ways. They would almost have to be.
Yeah, almost everything I saw, I recognized. Sometimes I'm not good with names,
Sure.
or if people didn't have prosthetics on, like their, full on costume, I'd be like, "Who is that? I don't know who that is." But yeah,
Yeah, I'd have to be
Well,
like
cool.
Jeffrey Combs. He played Wayoon in DS9.
yeah. Oh, I remember him.
But then she'd be like, oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah.
Well, cool. In a little while, I will ask you all about some of the cosplay stuff, some favorites and things like that. And if you don't know their name, you can describe it, and I'm sure Fatheree will pin it down.
Sure.
Fatheree, so Antonio, you had fun at the thing. Fatheree, did you enjoy the experience?
I was miserable pretty much every minute of every hour. No, it was a blast. It was great. I had wanted to do Star Trek Las Vegas since they started it.
And this is your first time attending?
Yes. When I was a kid, and they still had they first opened the Star Trek experience that used to be in Vegas at the Hilton Hotel in like '98.
Mm-hmm.
I decided I'm gonna go there and do that when I graduate high school.
So what took you so long? That's a long time.
I just I have had like a bunch of jobs, and sometimes I had more money than other times, and sometimes I was just busier than other times. But I think the first year I would have had like the ability to do it probably would have been 2016 around the 50th anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
But there was also when I was trying to start Tex-Trek. I was also trying to do some other stuff in my personal life, and I ended up we almost came last year, and at like the last minute I decided no, it's not going to fit in the budget. But I was following everything on Twitter, on Facebook, everyone's social media, listening to podcasts from people who were here, and when I saw the footage on YouTube of Patrick Stewart making his surprise appearance on stage and announcing the return of Picard, that's when I knew okay, I'm going next year for sure. Come hell or high water, I will be in Vegas.
And,
so here I am.
Do you see yourself making the trip again?
I don't know if I can do it yearly, but it's something that I plan on doing again.
Like if you had the means, you would.
Yeah. It might not happen every year. It might not happen every 2 years, but certainly every 3 years. I would like to believe I shall return.
So for those who haven't gone, is this indeed the biggest Star Trek convention?
Yeah. This is by far the biggest Star Trek event that they hold. There aren't as many dedicated Star Trek conventions as there used to be.
Mm-hmm. I wonder if that's going to change
in the heyday.
now that there's so much material coming out.
Yeah.
I don't know, just the whole convention experience is so different now than it was, 20, 30 years ago.
It's a thing now. It's a huge thing.
Yeah. Largely that Star Trek helped start.
Right.
But
yeah, that's true. And this one, it's like a 5-day thing, so Wednesday through Sunday?
Yes.
Nice. So if you stay the whole time, you're going to get pretty good and immersed in Star Trek.
Yeah.
And tell me, where does it take place? What hotel or convention center?
The Rio. Yeah, at the time of recording, we are actually in the hotel of the Rio Casino.
Mm-hmm. If I'm walking the convention floor there, what am I going to see? Lots of exhibits. Is it? Lots of cosplayers. What's the
a lot of things are contained in different rooms.
Okay.
So if you were looking to go to Quark's bar, you have a little map and you know what room to go to.
Quark's
there's different
bar?
Stages. Yeah.
Tell me more about that. Did they have Quark's bar set up there?
A little bit. I'll have some pictures cycling through the video of this, hopefully. If not, you can see them on my social media. But it's not as cool as what they used to have at the Hilton back in the day, from '98 to 2008. Which
right, that was a full-on attraction, right?
Yeah, which was discontinued, and I missed the boat on that. And yeah, they do have a little bar where they have some Star Trek themed drinks.
Which are really fun. We got to experience that on the cruise too.
Mm-hmm.
All the themed food and themed drinks. I don't know what it is, but it just makes it feel real.
Special,
almost.
yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like you're just ordering, a cranberry and vodka, which is what I drink a lot, it was like, oh, there's something new on the menu. Okay.
Yeah, we have also attended the Star Trek cruise, for those who don't know. But yeah, I mean, some of the themed drinks were, of course, Romulan Ale, Klingon blood wine. There's also a James T. T-E-A, James T. Kirk, which was a tea-based drink.
Long Island iced tea almost.
Yeah, it was very similar to a Long Island.
A Long Island iced tea, James T. Kirk.
Also a Ractigino, the Klingon coffee.
All right.
So, but
out of curiosity, was the bar wasn't by chance being tended by somebody dressed as a Ferengi, were they?
No,
Unfortunately,
but
no.
I think they used to do that in the old days.
Yeah.
Maybe that's something they can aspire to do again in the future. And in general, like, were there a lot of cosplayers? I saw lots of cool costumes, but I didn't know how many there were.
It felt like half the people here were cosplaying. It's probably a little less than that. It was probably like
half.
1 out of 3 or 1 out of 4, but that's still like a pretty large chunk of people cosplaying.
Yeah.
Would y'all ever consider cosplaying?
So, see, I like to be recognizable as Fatheree of Tex-Trek, so I feel like the only cosplay I can do would be things where I still kind of look like myself. So
like
either Fatheree with a Klingon forehead, which I did on the Star Trek cruise, or maybe I could do like
a
Star.
Called you ugly as a Klingon.
Oh, I took it as a compliment. Or maybe I could do like a Starfleet uniform, but still have my trademark cap on backwards.
That'd be. I feel like you need a lower decks costume for that, Fatheree.
Possibly. But we have some lower decks info we got if you want to ask us about that later. But
nope.
Yeah, just
now we're gonna skip that.
No, I think you're gonna like lower decks.
Okay. Let me ask you. What were you mainly there for? More like, what was the thing y'all were most interested to see? And then tell me what it was, how it was.
I'll take this one first, but then we'll circle back to Antonea. But the things I was most interested to see was the panel, seeing some of the actors in person that I hadn't seen before, and like the Discovery people, I hadn't seen any of them, but now I've seen all of them.
Did you want to see them to get autographs, to interact with them, to just see them?
For me, I'm not a huge autograph collector anymore, like I used to be. But I just wanted to like see them, and if possible, talk to them, ask a question at a panel, or maybe like shake a hand of someone.
Yeah.
But just visually seeing them, that's kind of what I like to do, is just like collect memories of seeing some of these people that are really cool and famous and important to me. And in addition to that, I also wanted to come just to meet all the other fans that come here. A lot of people who I know only from interacting with online, but I could actually like meet in person here, or a lot of people who are podcasters. There's a big podcast community here, and I got to meet like a lot of the people that I've been listening to for years.
That's super cool.
And get to know them, and that was a big part of me coming here. And the first night that I was here, I hung out with Larry Nemeczek, who does the Trek Files podcast. He does the Trekland Tuesday live streams on Facebook. He's in the Ready Room podcast on Trek FM, and he is an awesome fan who's been part of the fandom for decades. He, for those who don't know him, was the, I believe, editor of the Star Trek Communicator magazine.
Oh wow! What does this guy find time to sleep?
And he's from Oklahoma, and he's a big OU fan. So you kind of have to like give him a pass on that. Just us being based out of Austin, Texas. And Dave, you went to school at UT, didn't you?
Yeah, but I have I have no loyalty because I don't give a shit about football.
I know, but like don't say that part because it doesn't help what I'm trying to build up here.
Okay, yeah, big time UT student.
And I'm a t-shirt fan because I'm a big uneducated dummy, but yeah, so you have to look past the OU side of Larry Nemeczek because he's a big Boomer Sooner guy. But he was so cool and friendly, and I spent like all night Tuesday night until the wee hours of the morning just talking and drinking and hanging out with him and getting to know him. And he remembered me after I told him like some of the things we've corresponded with online. And so that was tons of fun. And then
that's awesome. That's the Trek fandom like I like to hear about.
Yes. But and Antonia, what about you? What was your reason for coming here? Because I forced it upon you.
I didn't come on with a lot of expectations. I really didn't, because I didn't. The only thing I had to compare to was the cruise. So, but I knew this is not the cruise. Like, this is a very different format.
Yeah,
So
you've never been to. Have you ever been to any type of convention?
Never. No, not
Oh,
like a
interesting.
fandom kind of convention, at least. So I didn't really have anything. I didn't know what to expect at all. The main thing I really came here for was to get a picture with Nichelle Nichols.
Oh.
I don't know what it is about her story and like some of the scenes that she's done that just really like, I don't know. I really just wanted to meet her. And
Well,
I know,
arguably,
you know,
she does hold like an amazing place in TV history, civil
yeah,
rights history.
absolutely.
You know, and both as a person of color and as a woman, I think she's like one of the most amazing people in TV history, and especially obviously Trek history too. So that's very cool.
Yeah.
Did you by chance get to do that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That
That.
was the only thing that we really like. We didn't get any autographs or anything like that, or we only got pictures with Nichelle.
Hmm.
Um, and that was something I was like, I'm not going unless I can get this. This is what.
That was the only photo op that we did,
Yeah.
and you know, like I said, like I'm not a big autograph guy. I love getting pictures with some of these stars, but I don't want to spend a couple hours waiting in line for a picture when I could
Yeah.
be doing
Interacting
other
with
stuff.
human beings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. My brother met Nichelle Nichols a few years ago, and it was like a really big experience for him, and it really one of his great ones.
Yeah, I got a story about that because he did that back in November of 2017, or was it
Sounds
18?
potentially right.
I think it was 2018. Yeah, and I was gonna go because I wanted to see Nichelle Nichols,
Hmm.
but I couldn't because my sister was getting married. So
Lame.
and then her health has kind of unfortunately gotten worse since
Right.
then, and I was worried if not just because I wanted to see her at a eventually at some point at a convention appearance or something, but worried about her as a person.
I was a little surprised to
And
see her attending the convention. I saw a really amazing shot of somebody in cosplay as Mirror Universe Uhura with her,
Yeah.
and so I was very happy to see that she was able to attend at
And
all.
she
Yeah.
loved when fans came up with, stuff like dressed up as Uhura, or just she was just really interactive.
Yeah.
Given what she's kind of facing right now.
yeah, she seemed very very aware, very alert.
Oh, that's great. I'm super happy
And
to hear that.
thankful.
Yeah, I don't want to say like energetic because I mean like she is quite elderly at this point. I think it's fair to say like she kind of has to like stay seated at all times.
Sure.
But like she was still like so expressive and loving and vibrant, just like in her face.
That's
Yeah.
great. Let's see. What was I going to ask here? Why don't you let's go ahead and pause for a second and talk about cosplay stuff that you saw there. Tell me about like either the coolest cosplay. I mean, like, yeah, what was the coolest and weirdest cosplay stuff y'all saw?
I think the two coolest cosplays, which I am blown away by how many people cosplayed, but also the extent of how far they would go,
Hmm.
because a lot of these costumes, they're not available. Like, you can't mass produce some
Oh,
of them.
right.
They were
Sure.
a lot of them were handmade. But one that we should definitely give a mention to is Jeff Stimson, who did Saru. And when I say he did Saru, he did the uniform, the mask, and also the shoes.
The
shoes,
hoof feet,
the
yeah.
hoof feet shoes. And he was walking around in them on the convention floor. And my feet were hurting just in regular shoes. So I can't even imagine what he
He
was
probably
going through.
is having his feet amputated right now.
Yeah, and
but
he was so kind to
He
people.
was
wanting
doing
pictures.
this every day.
Yeah, no, most of the days, I think.
Well, I don't think I saw him like Wednesday or Thursday, but the
Yeah.
last 3 days for sure, I
Yeah.
saw him walking around. And
Man.
yeah, we actually have footage of him, which if you're watching this, on YouTube or somewhere else where it's available in a video format, you might actually see that cycle through.
Awesome.
Yeah, and he actually got to go on stage during the panel with Doug Jones. I think Doug Jones was so impressed.
He signed his hoof boot.
Yeah, he was so impressed with him. They invited him on stage real quick.
Doug Jones said that was the first cosplayer he ever saw who successfully replicated the Saru hooves.
Yeah, so good job, Jeff. That was awesome. It was so cool to see that.
Yeah, shout out to Jeff for sure.
The other one, I don't know if he's around, but Pike, Captain Pike. There was a cosplayer, I think his name was Michael, I think. But he was in, what would you call it, like the cart?
The Captain Pike chair.
Yeah.
From,
the beep chair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From the Menagerie,
he
parts
had
1
brought
and 2.
a trailer
Yeah, for a minute,
to
by the way, I thought
Vegas.
you meant Anson Mount's Captain Pike, since he's been so prominent lately.
Oh.
But of course, the original, most iconic Pike is the wheelchair-bound Pike.
Yeah, but he had to make this chair.
Yeah, and before we talk about that for a second, I just want to mention about the Anson Mount Pike, that gold uniform that was reimagined for Star Trek Discovery Season 2 that we see Pike and Number 1 wearing. That was one of the most popular cosplays that we saw all week long.
A way to call back to the original series boldness, but with a few visual tweaks on the collar and all that.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's also something that's not even like widely available. Like there's no official CBS version of it. So people were putting in a little bit of effort to obtain these. And for anyone who thinks that Discovery hasn't been embraced by the fandom, they need to see how many Pike and Number 1 gold uniforms we have seen.
That's super, super cool.
And also like the Disco Blues. There are tons of people in the Disco Blues.
So let me ask about on the Pike that you saw, Antonia. Did they do the facial scarring?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I mean, like he even like positioned his face in a very similar way to the actual.
Yeah, that sort of flat, sort of expressionless, sort of anguished look.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I have footage of that, so that should be cycling through here.
Yeah, those are probably my favorite, but there were so many.
Yeah, I bet. Fatheree, hit me with a couple there.
There was a Green Lantern Klingon. Never seen that before.
Is that from the Star Trek Klingon or Star Trek Green Lantern crossover in the comics? Or just inspired by that kind of idea?
No, I think it was like an original creation, but inspired of that kind of like universal crossover thing. I also saw a Jedi Vulcan, and I'm kind of like, come on. Do we have to bring Jedi stuff to STLV? But
did you take that shit out of here?
Yeah, go to Disneyland with that, fool. But so that was a good one. I didn't actually see these, but you were showing me pictures of this.
Yeah, I was posting on Facebook some of the ones that I'd seen and posted in message groups and stuff.
Yeah, the Star Trek 4 humpback whale, complete with a little Spock toy mind melding on the side of their head. But I think the one that I got the biggest kick out of, and actually 2 people did this, but they cosplayed as Ira Stephen Bear, the Deep Space Nine writer, who has kind of a unique look to him. Specifically that in recent years he's been rocking a blue goatee. He just decided one day to dye his beard blue because he's kind of a weird guy like that.
They came as a DS9 writer. Let me just make sure I understood that right.
Yeah, as well, the most famous DS9 writer, Ira Stephen Bear.
Right.
Who ran
topical,
the show
because of that documentary.
Right, who just completed that documentary, What We Left Behind, which is spectacular, and I got my backers copy in right before we left, and I haven't had the opportunity to watch any of the bonus features on there, so hopefully I can do that soon.
One other one I'm going to mention because this is another picture I saw. Somebody, I believe at Star Trek Las Vegas, dressed as the Mego Spock action figure.
Yeah.
I don't know if y'all saw that.
Yeah.
But he had
I think we did.
Sort of vivid blue shirt that's a little bit kind of bulky because it was made to look the way it looks on the action figure. And even I saw in another one of the pictures they had the giant snap on the back, as if it were enlarged, so the button is big as your thumb. It's insane looking. And
Dave,
of course he had a Mego figure with him for comparison.
Dave, I just got a good idea for what I can do as cosplay.
Yeah. Okay.
I can be fat Ron Moore.
I don't know what Ron Moore looks like. So
He has a beard and long hair.
Okay. Yeah, that's as good an idea as any. Sure, you can do that, and then you don't even have to dress up at all. You can just tell people that's your thing.
I just put on a Jimi Hendrix t-shirt and I'm good to go.
You said fat, and it reminded me of Harry Mudd, and that made me wonder: were there any Harry Mudds from Disco?
I didn't see any Disco, but I did see TOS. He was in the version who had like the pimp hat, kind of like space sombrero or whatever that was.
Mudd's Women
and he
style,
was hanging out
or was that in the animated thing?
No, that was in Mudd's Women in season 1.
Yeah, he was at Quark's bar, so.
Yeah, which is where Harry Mudd probably belongs.
Let's see. So let's jump into like some of the. Well, actually, I want to just quick ask one thing about the sales floors. A, did y'all buy anything? And sort of a little B question for someone who's going, if they were on a budget, can you make it through this without like spending a ton of money? Maybe y'all did. I don't know.
No, we didn't spend a ton of money. I picked up a couple of T-shirts because I wear Star Trek T-shirts when we're making videos. So that's kind of something like I always keep an eye out for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bought some artwork. Kavita Maharaj, I remember her name. She did a series of Spock, like a 6 pieces just of Spock in different poses. And I went to her panel and I loved her artwork. And I had to go show Steven because I wanted someone not to think I was insane for spending money on artwork. But he liked it too, so we picked one out.
Oh, cool. So I'll be able to see that next time I visit?
Yeah. They're going to mail it to me, so it might not be there yet.
I wish Dave could see it because he's the one who knows about art stuff. But this is just my type of explanations. I would say like it's a super realistic style of painting, but it also incorporates some abstract elements. Like it'll have like a realistic face, but then there might be like some weird distortions on the body or in the background or something. And it's she uses a technique to make it look watercolorish.
Okay.
Like what?
It's like transparency. So it's playing with transparent layers. And kind of a little bit of, some of her pieces had a little bit of splashiness to it. I don't know the right word for that.
Okay.
But yeah, she had gotten a following through Instagram, and she said that she originally only did, she was only going to do one piece. And she was having a hard time deciding which Spock she was going to paint. Because, there's copyright and stuff like that. You don't want to get in trouble. So she didn't plan on doing a whole series because she didn't think it would go anywhere. But she had such a hard time picking one, she just started painting. And she actually started posting anonymously on Instagram just so she wouldn't get in trouble or there wouldn't be any issues or anything like that.
There's always a little bit of gray area, and this happens at comic conventions too with like big licensed characters like Marvel and DC, and the companies often it's kind of falls into a gray area where they don't worry about it too much unless you're actually publishing like a ongoing series or something like that.
Yeah. And I think in this case, too, that she also had to get approval from the Roddenberry family.
Or from the Nimoy family.
Yeah, sorry. Yes. But yeah, people responded so well that she ended up kind of getting approached and kind of got names of people to talk to. And everybody seemed to really like it. So they got to pick some of the paintings from her series to kind of make official. And she's working on a second series that's going to include people that aren't just Spock. So that was kind of a splurge for me. I wasn't really planning on it, but I love artwork and I love meeting artists. So I was definitely inspired to splurge a little bit.
I really like that. One of the cool things about sort of all sort of fandoms but especially in the geeky community is when it inspires some kind of creative enterprise among people. And, I guess that could range from a podcast or something like that to artwork to cosplaying and all that. Obviously, Trek is a big inspiration for many. That's really cool.
But I think you could come here and not spend too much money in the vendor's room if you didn't want to. I kind of went in there more to just like look at stuff. I didn't really purchase anything other than shirts, which I'm always looking for, because sometimes it's hard to find a 3XL.
Yeah. What about panels and stuff like that? Let's talk about some of the big stuff. Let's hit some announcements, some notable things you had, and then I'll maybe ask you all about some of the sort of surprises that you had, something cool that you might have seen that was unexpected. But do you want to like maybe tell me a little bit about some of the panels?
Sure, and just for people who have not been here, there is 3 different stages that the panels typically take place at. There's some other rooms where stuff might be going on, but normally they're going to be on one of the 3 stages. They have the Nimoy Theater, which is the huge stage. That's where all the big stuff happens. They have the Kelly Theater, named after DeForest Kelly, where it's also a pretty large stage. And then they have what I think is a newer edition, but it's like it's a small little stage, like kind of off on the corner, where they have the CBS All Access stage up. Or is it just CBS? No, I think it's CBS All Access.
CBS All Access.
So it's sponsored by CBS All Access, the streaming service that distributes Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Picard and short treks here in the United States. So with your actual Star Trek actors, they're going to be on the Nimoy stage because they're the big superstars. Some of them would appear individually. Some of them would be kind of grouped together. Other panels would either be at the Kelly Theater or the CBS All Access stage, and some of those things were hosted by just fan-driven stuff, like the Women at Warp podcast, who we mention a lot on here. Because me and Dave are both big listeners.
Totally.
They were here. I got the chance to talk to them.
I know that they sometimes will actually do the like moderation and stuff at conventions. Did any of that happen?
Well, they had like their own panel discussing. They were actually scoring different
outfits,
costumes worn by women characters in the various shows, and like ranking them.
Yeah,
they did a few others like warrior women. I think was it Grace?
Yeah, that was great. Oh, that's another weird thing is because I saw like Jera and Grace and Sue, and I hadn't seen Sue or Grace before, and so they kind of didn't look like how I pictured them, because when you listen to someone's voice for years and you kind of get like a sense of their personality, your brain will automatically kind of picture what they look like.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But they were all nice and really cool, and I went by their booth in the vendors room. So that's another thing in the vendors room is sometimes they'll have people like the Women at Warp or other podcasters. The Roddenberry Podcast Network, they have like a huge booth where all of them can hang out and interact with people. You were asking about panels, though. There were also panels on some of the licensing stuff. Some of the tie-in material, the Star Trek novels had a panel. The IDW had a couple of stuff. We checked out a little bit of that. They had some of the creative talent from IDW who work on the Star Trek comics there.
Yep.
Also, they were showing off those new tribbles coming out. That we actually have an interview with Science Division and their new officially licensed tribbles that will be coming out soon, that everyone should check out this video when we publish it on YouTube.
And these, you told me a little bit about this off mic earlier, but these are tribbles that are like, essentially like a little plush toy tribble, but with like cool, like it'll purr and it'll vibrate and you can sync it up to your phone and stuff like that.
Yeah, a bunch of like Bluetooth interaction. Yes. You can put it on Klingon detection mode and all kinds of cool stuff.
Which means have a video. It's gonna like shriek occasionally.
Yeah. Or if you move it, it'll like shrill at you and scream, and it's really funny.
How have these not come out until now? That's I'm really glad that's happening.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some Tribble toys available now, but none as interactive as this, and also none that are as soft. These are the softest Tribbles I've ever touched.
I did buy a Tribble.
Yay!
I did buy one, but the one that Science Division was showing was a lot softer.
Yeah.
a little cuddlier.
So, Father, at the panels, like who are the biggest guests, and why don't we like if there's any sort of notable things that they talk about, let's go ahead and hear what they said.
Sure. I mean, I'll just start with like TOS. We had Walter Koenig, William Shatner, both did their own panels. They're both really cool. Shatner is all the way I say it is like Shatner is gonna Shatner. He's gonna bring like his own kind of brand of
Pompous.
He can be pompous, but he's also funny.
He's entertaining.
He's a pretty good raconteur.
He's entertaining, yeah.
He's entertaining, but I would not ask him a question.
Well, yeah, because you don't know how he's gonna respond, and he might roast your ass.
Yeah.
And also he might go on a 20-minute tangent talking about everything but the question you asked.
Yeah.
Right.
But,
I've only seen him that one time that you and I were at a convention, Father.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect description of how things went. He would go off on tangents, and it was kind of like you're kind of there for the Shatner show when he's talking, so you got to kind of it's going to be a Shat show.
Yeah. And shout out to Koenig. He was really cool. I liked checking out his panel.
I liked his panel, but he did talk. I don't know why I wanted to talk about this, but he did hit on. He's how old is he now? What did you say?
Oh, I don't know.
70
He was like
something.
Yeah, he was running around on stage and stuff. So he's still active. But he expressed feeling kind of like the world is passing him by.
He says he does feel like a little less relevant. Not when he comes to Star Trek Las Vegas, but like other conventions that he does, that people do seem to be like, oh, they're more interested in like these anime voiceover actors than a Star Trek actor. So.
Right. Well, I guess to some degree, Trek was like as one of the original nerd fandoms. It might feel a little weird to see just how many fandoms are now sharing the stage with. There's Game of Thrones out there. There's a million superhero movies that were absolutely never a thing until the last few decades. So, that's kind of interesting. I would hope overall that we can all play nice together, but I can understand how if you kind of grew up a little bit, one of the few bit bright lights of kind of fandom, you might feel a little pushed off to the side.
Well, I don't think he was complaining in any way. I think it was just him being vulnerable in that moment. I think one person asked a question and was just like, "How are you?" And I really appreciate honesty.
Yeah, that's
even
a
when
nice
it's not
candor.
pretty. Yeah.
Because he was even like, this is kind of weird because I haven't talked about this to anyone else before, but I'm just kind of expressing this for the first time.
To my Trek family.
But yeah, then with the Next Generation, there was, I think everyone but Wesley and Picard. Oh, Denise Crosby wasn't here because she was working, so good for her. But we saw Michael Dorn and LeVar Burton do a panel together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that panel because they have a good dynamic together.
Huh.
And LeVar Burton's so thoughtful, but I think you would agree that that moment when the Q&A opened up and there was a fan that was blind.
Well, before that, when LeVar Burton, he actually brought his visor from the Next Generation, the original prop.
Yeah, and he put it on.
You said a fan that was blind?
Well, LeVar Burton had brought his actual prop visor from the Next Generation, and the coolest thing that I saw at this entire convention happened shortly after that, when a fan who... Do you want to tell it?
No.
A fan who was a blind engineer in real life
Oh, wow.
Went up to the microphone to ask LeVar a question, and he said he wanted to let LeVar know how much the character Geordi meant to him and how he thought that visor that would allow a blind man to see was just the coolest thing ever, and that how he was so glad that like he brought it to show everyone. The irony being that this is the one guy in the house who can't see it.
Yeah.
Who would be the most meaningful to. So LeVar Burton grabbed his visor and walked off the stage and walked up to the guy and brought it to him so that he could feel it with his hands.
I love it.
And touch the actual Geordi visor from the Next Generation and see it in his own way.
That's so cool.
And I started crying when that happened. That was the coolest. I don't know if you were going to ask me that, but that was by far the coolest thing that happened at this entire convention.
Something that I became a little bit aware of, and I maybe mentioned this before, listening to the Women at Warp podcast, because they'll sometimes approach things that honestly, as a, I guess, straight white dude, just were not sort of on my radar. Like, I never, cared much for Loxana Troy, an older sort of cougaress on the original, or on Next Generation and stuff like that, until I did see, there are some great episodes with her, certainly, but
I told you that before the Woman at Warp did.
Yeah, well, all right, but you didn't give me the explanation that made me feel their what her meaning was, and I don't.
Half a Life. Watch the episode Half a Life.
She's a random example, but they've talked about other characters that I didn't like Barkley and other ones, and they'll kind of they'll examine him from a mental health perspective, as somebody who represents somebody who's has anxiety and maybe is on the spectrum, and I think about these characters in ways I didn't before, and I hear them sometimes people talk about, and it's not just them, it's anybody who will talk about how these characters were meaningful to them, and it's a beautiful thing. There was somebody at the store the other day who was talking about his appreciation for Chakotay on Voyager, for his spiritualism, which, I think as a kid, I kind of thought was a little goofy. I know it was it was kind of a fusion of a lot of Native American stuff, and that they didn't necessarily go into it with maybe the deepest reverence for it beyond sort of an idea of him being Native American spiritual. But it allowed them to express spirituality in a way that few major characters did on Star Trek. So anyway, my only point being that there's a lot of things that I didn't necessarily think of over the years as I was watching, and I like seeing these different perspectives, and especially the story you just told is really an amazing one. That's fantastic. It reminds me of the time that Will Wheaton that talked about the girl that he had helped through these struggles. It's I'd bungle the story if I tried to retell it, but it's another one of those kind of tear-inducing stories, but it's also a very happy story. And I love that Star Trek can do that.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll try to run through quickly who the rest of the actors
hit it.
who were doing panels were. Sorry if I forget anyone. But also from TNG there is Brent Spiner. And I'll get to Gates McFadden and Jonathan Frakes in a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But let me talk about DS9 for a little bit. We saw a bunch of DS9 people. Terry Farrell was here. Nicole DeBoer was here. So both Dax actresses.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I already mentioned Michael Dorn. But all the Ferengi, all three big Ferengi characters, Quark, Rom, and Nog. We had Armin Shimmerman and Aaron Eisenberg and Max Golden. I can never say his last name. They were with Lita actress Chase Masterson,
Mm-hmm.
who I had the hugest crush on as a kid, and Dr. Bashir actor Alexander Siddig did a panel with all of the Star Trek doctors, minus, of course, the late, great DeForest Kelley.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and we should also add that that panel was that panel was going to be all of the doctors on the older series, so the series that weren't Discovery. So, but at the middle of it, Wilson Cruz ran out on stage.
Yes.
And we had heard some rumors that he was going to join.
Yeah, he wasn't supposed to be here.
Yeah.
He couldn't do Star Trek Las Vegas because his brother was getting married in France. And he actually had a flight to Europe that was delayed, and he wasn't going to be able to make it to the wedding. So he immediately... The story he told was that he immediately booked a flight to Vegas to come visit his other family. And it was really cool when he crashed the party and walked out on the stage and joined the other Star Trek actors. Because I was actually thinking Wilson Cruz should be here also.
Absolutely.
And the actors were doing a lot of that. They would crash each other's panels.
There's dramatic events going on at these conventions. Surprise twists.
With Voyager, we saw Kate Mulgrew
Mm-hmm.
and Robert Picardo as part of that Doctors panel. We also had Roxanne Dawson and Tim Russ and Garrett Wong.
Any Chakotay?
No, Robert Beltran wasn't here.
Damn it.
But we also had Jerry Ryan, a 7 of 9, as part of the Star Trek Picard panel, along with Hugh, the Borg Q actor, Jonathan Del Arco, and Jonathan Frakes, who has been directing Picard episodes.
All of those people
and then we had some...
experiencing a moment right now as the Picard enthusiasm reaches fever pitches.
Yeah. And last show, I got 2 more shows. Okay, Enterprise, we had like Connor Trenier, Trip Tucker, Dominic Keating, who played Malcolm Reed, and
the Doctor.
And yeah, John Billingsley.
Flux.
And then
Did you forget
with
Garrick.
Oh yeah, well I said like ton of DS9 people.
Oh, okay.
I didn't go into but all of them.
Sorry, I was excited about him.
But yeah, Andy Robinson Robinson. Yeah, Garrick actor Andy Robinson was here.
Nice.
Casey Biggs, who plays the Cardassian Damar, and Jeffrey Combs, who played Weyoun. Oh, Vaughn Armstrong, who played Admiral Forrest on Enterprise. And then with Discovery, we had Sonequa Martin Green, Doug Jones, Mary Wiseman, Mary Chieffo, Shazad Latif. Help me out.
Did you say the Admiral?
Yeah, Jane Brooke, who played Admiral Katrina Cornwell, and
awesome.
then all of the supporting characters as well.
Jason Isaacs.
And yes, Jason Isaacs and Anson Mount, so both captains, good and evil. Who they were. Anson Mount was doing a panel, and then Jason Isaacs joined in on his panel, and they have such good chemistry, and they were so funny and so entertaining, and it was actually their first time meeting in person.
Oh man!
But they were so fun because Anson Mount is Pike in real life. He is such a Boy Scout.
I'm following him on Facebook now, and that's the vibe I get. Like he'll get in disagreements with people, and it sounds like Pike getting in disagreements. He's very sort of respectful in his way, but not above kind of being kind of charismatically forceful too.
Yes, yeah.
But Jason Isaacs, on the other side of that coin, he is very mischievous and is a bit of a smartass. And witty. And he is Lorca in real life, essentially.
Yeah, I remember...
I don't know about that, but...
I remember when he experienced, I think, I don't know if there was a little bit of pushback towards the supposed SJWs or something like that on the show, but I remember him using some very blunt talk on his Twitter, I think. I believe the F-bomb might have been used, and I was like, Jason Isaacs, you seem like an awesome dude.
Oh, he used a few F-bombs here.
Nice.
So, there's also, during one of the Discovery panels, they had Kenneth Mitchell, who played 3 different Klingons in the show, including the characters Cole and Cole Shaw, 2 really nasty Klingon villains. And he started talking in character as like one of them.
Cool. I love
it. But then he started talking about wait till you see Prime Lorca. And so people were excited. Like, is he like teasing? Are they trying to announce like we're going to see Prime Lorca in the show or something? But then he did like this ridiculous like Jason Isaacs voice. Like he sounded like a dumb little kid in an English accent. Like, oh hi, I'm Prime Lorca. I'm so happy to be here. I have pretty little blue eyes. That's why I always wear blue shirts. Because Jason Isaacs actually always wears blue shirts. And so Jason Isaacs comes up on stage and he's like, no, wait a fucking minute. What's going on here? and he joined in on the fun.
And he was wearing a blue shirt.
Yeah, so kind of proved Kenneth Mitchell's point.
That's some nice rapport there.
I feel bad because... I feel bad because I haven't learned these actors' names, and they all seemed really cool. I think Patrick Kwan and Robert Rowley and Emily Coots and Sarah Middich. I can remember almost all of them. Shit, I can't leave one out. The actress who plays Owasakan. Can you see if you can look that up in there?
Was that today?
Yeah, but the Discovery like supporting actors, and they all seem like super thankful to like be in the show and be part of the family. There were so many people like lined up to like meet these people and get autographs with them. That like there is a huge support for Discovery at Star Trek
I'm really
Las
excited
Vegas.
to hear that, and also that these people kind of feel like they've been embraced as the family. we saw they started getting some real time in Discovery season 2, and I will only be too happy to see that continue to grow.
Okay, yeah, we looked up her name, Antonea. How do you say that?
Owen Oladio.
Okay, we'll go with that. But she plays the character Joanna Wassikin.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be the guy who remembered everyone's name except for the one black lady. but yeah, and of course, like Sonequa Martin Green had like a panel by herself, which is really cool. We had a good time watching that. But yeah, there was it was a lot of fun seeing this many Star Trek actors. Several of them I had never seen before.
Were they? So, go ahead, finish your thought.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I mentioned this earlier, but I hadn't seen any of these Discovery people until this week. And now I've seen all of them except for Michelle Yeoh and Tig Notaro.
Yeah.
Pretty much everyone else was.
It would have been awesome to see them there, but that is, it's great to, like, honestly, I'm glad in some ways, because then some of the actors who are in supporting roles probably got to be a little bit more prominent without having quite so many superstars.
Oh,
yeah.
A lot.
Yeah, it was cool getting to hear Patrick. I said his name. I said Patrick Kwan. Looks like it's Patrick Quatron. I'm sorry if I'm getting this wrong.
We're trying.
But he's Asian Canadian guy, and Garrett Wong talked about during his panel how much it meant to him growing up seeing George Takei on the Enterprise in the original series, because you didn't see many Asian characters unless they had like some like goofy accent or something
like
that.
Relief or sinister.
Yeah, and then he had a conversation with Patrick Kwok-Chon from Discovery, who said, hey, when I was in college, I watched a lot of Voyager, and it was so cool seeing you on that ship, because there weren't many Asians on TV in the 90s.
Yeah.
That's again a perspective
Garrett
that
Wong was excited.
I would not have had watching Voyager, but I'm excited to hear about.
Yeah, so Wong was all like, "Oh, I get to be George Takei to somebody," and then he started talking to George Takei voice, because he does really good accents of all the other Star Trek actors ever. He can do like impressions of all of them. So
he also mentioned that he was returning to acting.
Yes,
he had left.
He took a hiatus.
He took a hiatus since 2005, I think he said.
Yeah,
because there just wasn't a lot of roles for him as an Asian man. And he felt really limited, so he kind of just took a hiatus. But now, he's seeing a resurgence. It's not where it needs to be.
Right, but I assume movies like Crazy Rich Asians or The Farewell that's coming up.
Exactly.
He cited that as an example. He said he saw that movie and he's like, "Oh, hey, they're gonna hire more of us now."
I don't
apparently.
think he's wrong.
So,
that movie made a mint.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, on these panels, were the actors were they primarily anecdotes about the show and their lives? Were they like talking about upcoming stuff? Was it memories of the show or their own lives?
All of the above. Jinxed. But yeah, if any of that stuff sounds interesting to you, then you would enjoy these panels.
It actually all sounds really cool.
Dave, I don't know what else you have on the docket, but I think at some point we got to talk about these shows about Picard and Discovery and Lower Decks.
Yeah, I didn't know, were those announced?
A potential Pike show.
Were the announcements for those, did those come out through the panels, or did they have special presentations?
Well, we didn't really have any big announcements. We did get like a little. They dropped a few little tidbits during the Picard panel that Frakes and Jerry Ryan and
Hugh
Jonathan Del Arco did, and of course the Lower Decks panel was held by showrunner Mike McMahon and his writing staff, and then the other thing that I feel is worth bringing up was with a potential Pike show, which we all have our fingers crossed for at this point. That got talked about a little bit during like the Anson Mount panel, and also James Frain, who plays Sarek on Discovery, and Ethan Peck, who of course plays. But Ethan Peck's photo ops is sold out.
Oh,
like
wow.
they had to turn people. They were like, no more. Like he can't do it, or he can't do any more photos or any more
clearly
autographs.
that guy's not going to be allowed to go and do other TV shows and things now. There's he's now stuck in the Star Trek community where he will be worshipped as long as he sticks around.
So last year they had that famous moment where Patrick Stewart made a surprise entrance to the stage and announced that Jean-Luc Picard is back. I was really hoping for something like that to happen this year. It didn't, which is fine. I still had a great time, but I was determined that Anson Mount was going to announce the Pike show. After that tease that Alex Kurtzman gave the audience at San Diego Comic-Con, we said, do you want a Pike show?
I didn't think they'd be ready to announce that fast.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, if he's teasing that, like, it has to be in the works. If he's, like, kind of, like, poking at the audience, like, oh, yeah, you want this, don't you? And I thought maybe they had saved something for this. But Anson Mount did say, okay, everyone, I have an announcement for you. There's coffee in the back of the room.
Bastard.
But I thought there was about to be like an explosion of applause. Like I had like my camera ready. It's like I'm gonna get footage of this, and that's all it was.
I wasn't convinced, but I could tell you were really kind of bummed out.
Yeah, but I still had a lot of fun, and he said, his words was like, yeah, of course, like I want to do it. We'll see what happens. But as for the Picard show, we got one like nugget of info that I don't think we've had before. It's something that Jerry Ryan said about being 7 of 9. She talked about how she appears so different, and one might even say out of character compared to the 7 of 9 we know from Voyager. But you have to keep in mind that this is decades later, and the character has obviously, evolved. And it's nice to see her and like not. At the time, I thought it was sexy as hell, but it was. But the ridiculous cat suit with like high heels built into
like
it.
Now she's going to get to wear sort of normal
clothes,
Federation wear.
But she addressed why 7 of 9 might seem a little different after all this time.
Yeah, she said she was having a hard time kind of shifting the character after all the years, and then now the show her character is a little different than when it was before after all this time, and so she needed to kind of create a backstory in order to I think someone helped her with this, but she had to get a backstory in her mind to be able to pull it off. So what she convinced herself was, how do I say, she was forced to change. She was, maybe there was some kind of bigotry or something like that she was maybe facing after the Borg incident, and being so visibly different that she had to sound and act a little less Borg-like.
Right. Yeah. She brought up a good point that even on the well, to me, I interpret it as like even on like the egalitarian future Earth of Star Trek, in a time and place where people have like lost loved ones to the Battle of Wolf 359 and stuff like that, and have kind of lived in fear of the Borg. It might be a little unsettling to other people to like see a Borg walking around on Earth, and because she would look Borgish with her implants that are still visible on her face, she would needed to assimilate, quote unquote, into Earth culture and into human culture and become more human to fit in.
No, that sounds like a cool backstory. If I'm not mistaken,
agreed.
There will be some backstory revealed more on Picard in the comic world, right?
Yeah, and so continuing about Star Trek Picard, we also know that there will be a 3-issue miniseries called Star Trek Picard Countdown, issue 1 coming out in November, and that will be a prelude. I don't want to call it a prequel, because a prequel kind of has a negative connotation. Thanks a lot, Star Wars. But a prelude to Star Trek Picard that is written by Mike Johnson, and it will be about one specific event that takes place between Nemesis and Picard that Jean-Luc Picard goes through.
If I'm not mistaken, I think he was co-writing it with someone. I saw some lady whose name I didn't know.
Kirsten Beyer, who is involved with all the Discovery tie-in comics and all the Discovery tie-in novels. Yeah, she is the staff writer on Discovery who helps kind of liaison between the the show writers and the tie-in
Right.
material writers.
So yeah, there's like not quite 20 years between Nemesis and Picard.
It is
if they're tracking
exactly,
at 17 years right now, it'll be a little bit more by the time they get the actual show out.
It's exactly 20 years between Nemesis
I heard 20
and
dropped, and I wasn't sure if that would fit. But yeah, okay.
Yeah, they've confirmed the date of Picard is 2399, which is 20 years after Nemesis in 2370.
Do we have a release date for Picard yet?
No, early 2020. I'm guessing February.
I can hold out till February.
But
so that's something I'll definitely be looking forward to. It's interesting that the countdown has kind of become the branding since the Kelvinverse movies for their preludes. It's always countdown something.
Back in 2009. And that's why I'm thinking it'll be February because 3 issues, so that's November, December, January, then February would be I think when the show would come out. February is also going to have a release of a Picard tie-in novel written by Una McCormick.
That's always good to hear. You know, we liked the one of the 2 only so far. I don't know if there's more Discovery novels that we read. The one from who's that guy? David Mack.
David Mack.
Regulars.
Yeah. I think they've done 4 so far.
And that was I remember among other things, that was one where you and I found there was like a richer depiction of Saru in particular than maybe even the first season gave us to work with. So and it kind of informed how I thought about him in second season too. So yeah, I always like to see the depth that the novels can dive into a little bit, getting a little more internal for the characters.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be focusing on some of these new characters that we're getting in Star Trek Picard that we still don't know much about.
I'm going to call them his smuggler people, but I have no idea if they're smugglers. They're a little more rough than Starfleet people are.
Dave, do you want to talk about Lower Decks?
Yeah, you said I'm going to like it. I don't believe you.
Well, as we've discussed before, Dave hates the concept of comedy.
I don't like humor. I don't like cartoons for babies. But I'm going to give it a chance.
I'm pretty excited. You like the Orville.
Mm.
I said
it. This show looks
the Orville
very
doesn't
better.
have humor. That's why I love it.
I think this show is going to be
such a sick
better
burn.
than Orville, in my opinion.
I'm almost there more for the drama stuff than the gags on the Orville. What were we saying, Fatherie?
Well, one of the questions that was brought up during the Lower Decks panel, someone asked, "How will your show compare to the Orville?" Which is kind of similar to Star Trek, but is geared toward more humor. And I really liked Mike McMahon's answer and he wasn't trying to bash MacFarlane. He said, that's awesome that Seth MacFarlane is doing like this very Seth MacFarlane-y show that feels like it just fell out of a portal to a parallel universe and was made in the 90s, and it's so cool. We have like this old vintage 90s funny type of Star Trek tribute show, which to me is kind of like putting it down, but he was trying to not insult it. But then he said, my comedic voice is very different than Seth's, and that show is so Seth, and what I'm doing is not anything like that. And to me, the heart of Star Trek is about like the characters, and I was always there for the B stories. He talked about like they're going to do an episode where Riker gets captured by aliens who thinks he's a demon, and they put him in an orb, and while that's going on, something like Data and Geordi are learning how to make a movie. Or, something like that. And he loves like those type of B story type things, and he just wants to make a show that's like that, that's focused on that stuff, on that side of Star Trek.
I typically don't get into animated shows, as you know, as Steven knows.
Yeah, she hates anything
they're
animated.
All for babies,
no,
so I
anything,
understand.
But
except for The Last Airbender, which is amazing, plus a whole bunch of other great cartoons. But I understand your reticence.
Yeah, a lot of it doesn't appeal to me, or it takes a lot to kind of turn me around on that. But I was intrigued by it only because You're gesturing, Steven, makes it it's very distracting.
I was telling you to talk louder, project on the mic.
I like the idea of a show kind of showing characters, particularly in the Star Trek universe, that aren't perfect and are still kind of stumbling and finding their way and maybe not always succeeding in what they're trying to do. I don't know why that really appeals to me, because I don't think we've seen that as much as...
Sure.
I think that's something that you just don't see nearly as much. Things
characters
always
are flawed sometimes.
work, even if Plan A...
Star Trek characters are flawed sometimes, but they tend not to be very flawed. And I think we're going to maybe see
it's like
a little bit more of that in this. A little bit more, maybe recognizably us, the audience, in them.
And he talked about how, to him, like, a big part of Star Trek was it, which everyone says, I've heard it 100 times, but it's a story about humans and humanity, and he wants to focus on the humanity within Star Trek. He said his favorite episode of Star Trek is the episode Lower Decks from The Next Generation, which gave us a look at some of the less important people on the Enterprise. And he says, this is the less important people on a less important ship.
It's also key in that episode that one of them doesn't make it out of it. One of them gets lost on a mission. So you get to see that these guys who might go kind of nameless in the narrative that you're watching are still making sort of sacrifices.
Yeah, they're real people. The extra who gets killed, the red shirt who gets blown up on the away mission was a real person.
Can we mention like what we know a little bit about the premise that you mentioned to me? I don't know if this was on Twitter or where it came about, but as far as the mission statement for the ship.
Yes, so their ship has the important and practical mission that we haven't seen in Star Trek before, but they specialize in second contact. After someone like the Enterprise has gone, made first contact with a new world, these people like come in after them and do all of setting up communications if they're going to like join the Federation or like any of that type of stuff.
Yeah, arguably the heavier,
which I think that's really cool.
Maybe.
Right. But the less glorious side of it, not the glamorized flagship. So I thought that was a really neat premise. I like that.
I like his ideas, so I'm certainly gonna give it a chance and try checking it out.
And I liked what we saw of his writing staff on stage. They seemed to really be jiving together. They would like start a sentence and someone else would finish it. They had like their rapport down, and he talked about how he was interested in only hiring people who were super familiar with Star Trek, who
I'm a little surprised
that was close to their heart, or people who were willing, or people who were willing to learn about Star Trek, but had like some comedic input to contribute. And he said like they're like the entire writing staff, they're all reading the book. Is it the 50-year voyage, or I'm sorry if I got that wrong, but the book about like the whole like first 50 years of Star Trek, they're all like reading that.
That's a surprising amount, intent to bring in to invest the actors in the fictional universe, which arguably is not always important to a show. Actors can go and be consummate professionals, pretend for the duration of the episode that they're acting in, and then walk away and have no connection. The fact that he's wanting to foster a sort of particular love and fascination with the world setting of Star Trek, and probably presumably have the writers really plug into that too, definitely speaks to a deeper intent and commitment to Trek as a concept than than I expected early on from the show. I expected it to be not throwaway, but it could be a comedy with just Trek as window dressing.
Right.
Yeah, that's not the case. And they were kind of like joking around on stage, and I got like the first like little flavor of like what their comedy would be, but they were talking about like I think it might actually be something that they wrote for an episode. Like, what kind of jobs do people like? These people who like do the jobs that aren't the popular jobs to do that like no one else wants to do in Starfleet. But they were saying like things like scraping carbon off a slightly harder carbon, and I'm like, that must be like a joke that they've written that makes sense when you hear it in context, because it was like such a specific thing. But I was like, yeah, like they're doing like some like a tedious part of like a scientific experiment or something. And And we got like the first little bit of animation. They actually had like the character pictures that were revealed in San Diego, but they animated them to blink.
Yeah.
So technically that's the first Lower Decks animation. And I recorded the footage of
That's
that.
hilarious.
Yeah, I have that posted on Twitter at Tex-Trek if anyone wants to go check out the Twitter post I made of the first ever Lower Decks animation. It's only 5 seconds long. And I love how their character, Ensign Boimler, who is like the kind of neurotic ensign, they were calling him Boims, and I really hope that's like his nickname on the show. For some reason, I thought that was funny, and then like the name Boimler just says it all about like, yeah, this guy's kind of a dork, but I'm ready to see like that show. I'm ready to see what they do. I'm very excited for it. The animation, it sounds like it's still in like pretty early steps, so I don't think we'll get a trailer this year. And Mike McMahon actually commented on that. He said, like, I don't want you to see it until it looks good. So
yeah, that's all sounding pretty good. Is there anything else we should know about it? Any other leaks?
Well, I think I heard a moon pie in the background there, and I'm assuming he's upset we're talking about Lower Decks and we haven't mentioned the new Cation character, the cat lady Dr. Tiana, I believe is the name of the character.
That's right. We talked about her character design because she looked like a grumpy cat, kind of like every Star Trek doctor, not every, but a lot of them.
and unlike weird, I don't want to kink shame, but furry fantasy sexy cat Maress from the animated series, nothing like that. Which I think is a good idea. I'd rather have like a funny grumpy cat than the weird sexy cat. But someone asked, the moderator Jordan Hoffman, he asked Mike McMahon, does Dr. Tiana purr? And Mike McMahon said, no, she doesn't purr. She is cantankerous and grumpy, a lot like Dr. McCoy or Dr. Pulaski, but she is a super great doctor.
But sounds pretty promising.
Yeah, I think he said like the one way to describe her would be as like a super Pulaski. Like, she hates dealing with people, she hates talking to people, but she's incredibly good at her job.
I kind of hope that she either like hisses or does those low cat growls like they do when they're fighting.
What about coughing up hairballs?
So I don't want him to do that because that's too much of a joke about actual like house cats, and I would not like it if they did it. I hope they don't do it. Now I hate the series.
That would be too much like Linus sneezing on people in the Discovery, but
yeah. Well, no show is perfect. But no, that actually does sound good. I'm looking forward to seeing her character, a cranky Cation. Father, out of curiosity, at the con, were there any kind of? You said you were a little disappointed that there weren't any big announcements going on. Anything else that you think that they could improve, or that was just like kind of, oh, that's too bad, disappointing?
I mean, that's like a weird question for me because I felt like I was pretty familiar with Star Trek Las Vegas from just being envious of people who were here every year until this year. Mm-hmm. So I think I kind of knew what to expect, and there wasn't really anything else I would say I was disappointed in. I kind of wish that Vegas itself was a little cheaper, but
yeah.
Drinks and food can be a little pricey, but
No
unless you're heading up the slot machine or the blackjack table, in which case you can drink for free. But
well, that sounds like a great idea. Everybody should go there and do a lot of that. I think that's their whole marketing plan for Vegas.
Antonea, what about you? Do you think there's anything they could do better?
I would say one of my favorite panels was one of the ones earlier in the week. I think the first day with Rob Perlman and J.K. Woodward, they did Mad Libs.
Oh, yeah, that was fun.
I love the and I feel like the
were they Star Trek Mad Libs?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was actually something that they invented on the cruise. Rob Perlman being the writer who wrote books like the C. Kirk and Spock or whatever. I have this book. He signed it for me. I should know what the name of it is. But yeah, the funny ones, not the actual golden books, but
right, gotcha.
But yeah, but J.K. Woodward during this was they took the first story and he was drawing out a scene from the very first Mad Lib we did,
Uh-huh.
and it was cool because we had to, the audience got to shout out adjectives and nouns.
A
and
bunch
stuff
of
like
perverts,
that.
I
Yeah.
should say, but
I think it would be more fun on the cruise and everyone's more liquored up in the evening.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
I think it would have been more perverted, but it was still. I like the audience interact. I like the panels. Don't get me wrong, but I would have enjoyed more interactive programming like that.
Yeah, the sillier stuff.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
sillier
that sounds
stuff.
fun. I'm a particular fan of Mad Libs, and
Yeah.
my family and I kind of do what we call a curated Mad Libs, where I will ask for like an adjective or whatever, and I will take their answers and I will throw back some of them. I will not. I will like wait until I hit the one that I think is the funniest, or even try it out. Try some of them out in the other adjective spaces in there.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit frustrating, I think, if you're the one shouting it out. But once it's done, it's a thing of
enjoy
beauty.
it.
When I read it back, it's A-list material. I do think I have the Star Trek Mad Libs. So, Father, I think we need to see if we can maybe find a way to incorporate this into the show at some point. Maybe
I
we can.
agree.
Yeah.
Maybe we can take Twitter suggestions and things like that.
Yeah, I have it too. If YouTube doesn't mess up any future plans for live streams, I think that'd be a perfect live interaction with our audience. So if anyone out there listening would like that, by all means, let us know, and it's something we will work on arranging.
Yeah.
But
That's
all in
fun.
all, it sounds like y'all had a blast. I wish I'd been there.
Well, there's always next year. And we did
Yeah.
run into a fan of Tex-Trek who recognized me from YouTube, Lillian. So hi, Lillian, if you're listening.
That's
And
very dope.
I recorded a short little interview with her, in which she says hi to you, Dave, and says that you are obligated to come next year.
Yeah.
Oh well, I guess there's the excuse I needed. It already sounded pretty cool, but yeah, I will definitely come by and high five Lillian next year if she is there as well.
Yeah. She's local. I think she has gone.
Yeah,
to a couple
she
of them.
comes every year. It sounded
Yeah.
like.
Right, man, that's got to be the coolest, to be like living right next to the Big Trek convention.
Yeah.
For sure. But yeah, that pretty much covers it all. Oh, and they had the Star Trek Picard, the first duty exhibit here. I got footage of that. So I got a few things. I'm gonna try to drop some videos, maybe throughout the next couple of weeks. So just be on the lookout. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel, because a lot of the stuff is not going to be enough content for a full podcast, but it will just be dropped as short, little digestible YouTube videos here and there.
Just the kind of thing somebody could listen to on the drive to work.
For sure.
Well, very cool. Should we call it there and then begin planning our next episode?
Yeah, so we will hopefully be back next Sunday, and you will actually be able to see our faces, or unfortunately, depending on how you feel about the way we look. And we should have Brian with us again, our most frequent guest star. And we shall, or guest host, whatever the terminology is for podcast people. But we shall continue our Tex-Trek Summer at the Movies and get into those Kelvin films by talking about Star Trek 09 by J.J. Abrams.
Yeah, the really the one true Trek, I find.
Well,
but yeah, I believe we all have varying stripes of fondness for them. So digging into that is going to be fun. Tearing in a new one at times is going to be fun, and I'll be curious to see, like, because I'm going to tell you all about some things that, like, I hated when I first saw it, but they grew on me, or that I still hate, or that are just weird.
Yeah.
It's going to be super cool to talk about.
There is no shortage of opinions where I think any of those three movies are concerned, but especially the first two. But yeah,
Exactly.
we're gonna be rolling out on those.
Well, sounds good.
Well, all right, and on that note, we will sign off. But until next time, live long and prosper, y'all. Thank all of you so much for checking out this installment of Tex-Trek. I hope you enjoyed it. Please be sure to like our YouTube videos and subscribe to our channel. Audio-only version of episodes are available at our website, www.tex-trek.com. Please check out our site, especially if you just want an audio-only podcast. We have that available for you. Y'all can also keep up with us online. You can follow us on Twitter at Tex-Trek, or you can check us out on Facebook at www.facebook.com/tex-trek. Please, by all means, let us know what you think by dropping a comment anywhere you see fit. We definitely want to hear your feedback. Let us know what you liked and what you would like to see more of, what you would like to see differently going forward. If you want to email me directly, go ahead. I can be reached at fathereeactual@tex-trek.com. Thank all y'all again. Take care.